am I doing again?
The intro.
Me. It's all about me. The show's about me.
True. Alright. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Apartment Shenanigans. Oh my god. My phone vibrated. Distracted me. Probably have to do not disturb.
That's good tonight, man.
He's been...
Your booty calls, texting me.
I've been out of it. Okay, anyway.
Caught in a never-ending game. Seems like the world's still trying to tame me. If that's the way, I will obey. Beautifully strong.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Apartment Shenanigans. I'm Avery, and I'm here with Jason and Ben.
Hey, guys.
Hola.
And today we're actually going to be talking about two anime movies, and they're called Your Name and A Silent Voice, or the Japanese name is Ko no Ki something words. But what?
Thanks.
Just your pronunciation, Jason. Just didn't help you out with it.
Okay, so to get it correct, it's actually, it can go by A Silent Voice, The Shape of Voice, or Kodo Katachi. There it is.
And what was your name?
Your name is Kimino Ka. Oh god, I used to know this.
You're welcome.
Kimi no Nawa. So I was close. See?
You were there.
I said Kimi no something.
Something.
Kimi no Nawa. So which one do you want to jump into first?
Well, I'm only a guest here, so I'll tag along to whichever one we start with.
Why
are you looking at me like that?
Ben has a very different opinion about one of these movies, so I'm going to start with the other one first.
Anyways, but we recently just watched them together.
Correct, yeah. So I watched I've actually seen A Silent Voice 3 times and Your Name once, but I've seen clips numerous times. And you've seen The Silent Voice once, Jason?
I've seen Silent Voice twice, and I've seen Your Name just as recently as 3 days ago.
Right, and me and Ben watched it about a week ago.
About a week ago.
So, Your Name actually came out right before A Silent Voice, and they came out the same year, and because of it, A Silent Voice was actually kind of downplayed for how good it was. Everyone was talking about Your Name, and Your Name is actually, it beat Spirited Away in Best Animated Film. So,
I didn't know that.
That was like a huge thing. It won a bunch of awards.
But I can see it be people thinking it was better than the other.
Right. And just right off the bat, I love both the movies, but I do like A Silent Voice more because of its relatability. I thought the problems and struggles of the main character were more realistic when Your Name was kind of had that spiritual aspect to it, which obviously isn't real, or like
depends upon your belief. Can't quantify it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So the plot of Your Name basically is there's two characters. God, I can't remember the names. Taki and Mitsura.
Correct. You actually did get it right.
Good job.
And they are switching bodies, so it's kind of like a comedic sci-fi.
It's like Freaky Friday.
Yeah, it's
basically.
It's anime Freaky
That's
Friday.
That's what I said as soon as I realized what was going on.
Was really nice because like the best thing like I think in movies is like when they hint at something so much and you can guess it before they reveal it in like 5 minutes.
Because they wanted you to know about it.
Well, they do, but like sometimes some people might not get it till like right at that moment they tell you.
Right.
And like 5 minutes before, I like paused the movie. I was like, they're switching bodies, and like I didn't see the trailers or anything, so I didn't know that. Right. So the two characters switching bodies. There's like a big thing about their body switching that's more of a spoilers, but we won't get into that.
I mean, when I watched this movie based upon the recommendations of both Avery and Ben, I went into this movie entirely blind. Didn't know anything about.
Which is rare.
Yeah. Usually I will read a spoiler, I will find out something about it, but based upon, and I've been given several recommendations by Avery, and they've all actually been spot on, so with that being the case, yes, kudos to you, sir. But took a watch to this movie, sat down and watched it all the way through. No pause, no breaks, and it was it was a refreshing, feel-good anime, and that's actually kind of the whole premise behind what we're doing right here with this particular podcast. Um, Premise again, switching bodies with a very interesting twist that is not revealed until about, I would say, a little bit midway, a little bit after that.
The whole
The main.
I'll say 3/4 of the way through the movie.
Because it was. You felt as though that they were eventually going to meet up and do everything they were supposed to do, and then you got hit with this. That's different.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't necessarily expecting that large scale of a thing to happen. I kind of thought they probably wouldn't end up, but that might just be because of like, I don't know, timing or like storylines being in different times or something like that, or travel distance or something. But I didn't think it would necessarily be catastrophic.
Right.
Yeah.
And that biggest thing, like, and like because of that, the whole big spoiler, I do want to bring up this quick scene that I pulled up on the computer. I watched that, and I showed Bennett too, and I watched a ton of other videos on.
Of course you did.
In this movie and A Silent Voice. So the spoiler in it with everything, I wasn't expecting it, but I don't know, because I went to the movie blind like you said you did, which I've been going to a lot of different movies blind, like anime movies specifically that I haven't seen. I'm always caught off guard because I expect one thing just from seeing like a
We've
picture.
kind of run into that with the last ones, even when we watched like Spirited Away, where we're like, it was as expected, kind of like a quarter of the way in, and then it turned into this weird, super trippy weirdness, and then it kind of like went back to how it was at the beginning.
So yeah, I would agree entirely. I was caught off by end of Act 2 of what actually did transpire, but when I think or reminisce about it, it reminds me a lot of Erased.
I can kind of see that.
And I don't
did
think
get the same feels.
And not because again, it has
In
this.
what kind of way? Because
One, you still have Erased, and again, this is another feel good anime. We could probably do a whole.
Erased doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it was.
By the end of it, it's a feel good anime.
It totally was the way it wrapped up.
The way it wrapped up, it was, but
not the whole way
show
throughout.
is a suspenseful murder mystery.
But
it wrapped up, and I was happy with the way it ended.
Would you not say that your name was kind of suspenseful in the same aspect?
Suspenseful, but not really a mystery murder type.
Are you sure?
I mean,
it was mystery because you had to figure some stuff out, but it wasn't necessarily murder.
I'll say much more suspenseful and just kind of like a suspenseful romantic.
It kept you guessing.
Now both Erase the series and Your Name had a big reveal towards much towards the end of the lifespan of the series or the movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It took a turn. It had an unexpected result, and even the final, because when you watch Erased, a lot of people have the idea or concept that he should have ended up with the girl that was there. When I watched Erased, it made the most sense for him to end up with the pizza girl.
That's the way I ended up thinking about it too, because she was there when he woke up, right? That's the one that was there.
She was there the entire movie. Like, we're always there for him and wherever he went. And also,
yeah.
And I read the manga afterwards too. In the manga, she has a lot bigger role too, and she has more scenes with him in both areas.
So,
which makes it kind of make more sense with the ending, where the movie was kind of
random. It points it a little more out, but the movie kind of plays it down a little bit.
Right.
So even with that, I looked at your name the day after as like, oh, let me kind of put in the same genre. And I know it's a movie versus a series, but as Erased, it was it started off interesting concept, so it hits you immediately with what's going on.
Right.
And then utilized it, played off it for quite some bit, because that's exactly what Erased did. Erased, this is what this person can do. Your Name, this is what goes on with the characters. They're doing the Freaky Friday switch. doing it back, the comedic aspect about it with him always touching her boobs every time he wakes up in the morning. Pure genius. Mind you, if any guy was like, oh, I wonder what they feel like.
Which,
amazing.
by the way, after he found out what happened, and like he just wants to go back one more time, the scene, because I was watching another video, they're talking about it, and the fact that it went from something so serious to a comedic boob squeezing scene with him just like in her body again, and she's crying. Like it was like a funny scene, but it was so funny, but also so serious. And then he like crawls to the little sister, and the little sister's like, "I'm gonna go home or go to school now." Like that made me crack up. It was so well done.
Yeah.
The other aspect about that is there was so much that was at stake.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. Like they threw that. Like honestly, that was like what, the 5th time they did that boob joke.
Yeah,
and it was still funny to me, which is shocking. But it was still funny. But like I was still into the movie. I wasn't thrown out of it because of the comedy.
I think the little sister's reaction every time was what made it
hilarious,
doable multiple times.
Right.
Because if she didn't have that sort of genuine like little kid reaction, it wouldn't have been funny each time.
But like she kind of got used to it too. Like the first time she was like, "Why were you touching your boobs?" And then it kind of became like a joke.
Are you touching your boobs again before she even like opened the door or whatever? Or you better not be or something.
Yeah. And I was actually, me and Ben watched the dubbed version. What did you watch? Dubbed or subbed?
Subbed.
So when they wrote on the hand, did you read what they wrote?
So the translation that I received in the subbed version, he wrote "I love you."
Okay, yeah. The dub didn't say anything. So we were a little confused. I found out it said "I love you," and also the scene like at the very beginning when they start doing the Freaky Friday stuff, and they're on the rooftop eating with Taki, like the body Taki is eating with his friends on the rooftop, and me and Mike were talking about it because Mike watched the sub. In the sub, he says like "Watashi wa Taki," whatever his full name is, and like that's a really formal way of saying it. And in the dub version, I think he just said something really weird for them to get like a weird reaction, like "Are you okay?"
So in the sub version, he said his name as it's the conjugate of his name, but he said it with a feminine accent.
Okay.
And that's what caused his friends to give that weird reaction.
Yeah.
And also, one of his friends might actually be on the
Right. Yeah.
Which was, I was like, oh, okay, this is okay, all right.
And then the dub, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I think he just maybe said something really random or weird. And then his friend was like, "Is it weird that I thought he was kind of cute?"
So that translation is still the same.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like he said it, but it sounded kind of cute when he said it.
Okay.
Is how the sub version actually came across. But it's this when it comes down to the suspense portion of it, like it almost follows the same. And I hate to. My anime for 2016 was erased. 17 was erased. So I am throwing that in the comparison. They're both. I'm not taking.
I can really see a strong resemblance between them, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're the same theme, but they kind of invoke the same general feelings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I empathize with the characters. I wanted everyone to do well. I wanted the characters from Erase to succeed. I wanted Tashi to succeed. The major caveat is the first subway scene. The original subway scene.
Before it went...
Before
the movie opens up. This isn't a spoiler. It opens up in the future, and the whole movie is a flashback.
Yeah. Depends upon from whose point of view, but yeah.
No, the whole movie's a flashback. It opens up with Taki as an adult. No, it opens up with Taki on
He's on the bridge.
I thought it was the subway. The subway scene.
He was on the bridge about to jump off.
Wrong movie, man.
Never mind. I told you I was going to get reminded. This was last week.
So yeah, it started on the subway, and they locked eyes, and then their memories start coming back, and that's when the movie started with the flashback. What happened with the Freaky Friday stuff?
Well, then that doesn't really follow with everything else in the movie. Then
yeah, it does. Because
why would she? This is that.
What doesn't make sense to you?
Well, one, why would she even be in that area?
She moved to Tokyo.
How old was she? Oh, in this flashback, how old was she?
the oldest you ever see her.
Oh, okay.
The age she is how the movie.
I apologize. I didn't watch the first 3 minutes.
Really?
I had to. So I apologize, everyone. I did watch the entire movie minus the first 3 minutes because I had to. I have 2 little boys, and they were actually requiring the needs of their father. So I took care of that. But then I was like, I'm not going to go back. I can.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's the intro credits or whatever.
Yeah.
That,
So
like
I didn't pay it as much attention. I didn't realize how much of it how much of an involved role that was. So for that, I apologize. This is my bad.
It's what you got out of watching it. So
like how the movie ends, like when they're like running and searching for each other.
It's where
that's where the beginning starts.
Okay.
They see each other in the subway. They get off, and then they go searching. So the middle part of the movie, the whole movie, is them remembering these memories of why they're like feel connected.
So
searching for your name.
So I do actually have a sidebar question.
Yeah.
Do you think either of them were very athletic inside when they were in high school? Because they ran a far distance by the end of that movie.
Riding bikes, running. Taki didn't really run. Taki was just hiking around, walking.
I'm talking about the last train scene where the train splits off and goes in 2 separate directions. That was that. Think of it.
I think you're thinking too much into this.
Of course he is.
I don't care if it's the very next stop. The trains deviated and went 2 separate directions.
Anyway, that's that off topic.
Just saying that's.
But this is, if you've heard of the movie 5 seconds per centimeter, 5 centimeters per second.
I've heard of the movie. I have not viewed it.
I think it came out like 2006, 2008. Mm-hmm. Same director as Your Name.
Okay.
So that's another one on my list.
We should really just do screenings like as a group, or at least like the 3 of us, and then talk about it.
We should do that next
would be
time.
interesting, yeah.
So
something that
like do it like right after we watch it or something.
Yeah. Or even like the next day or something like that.
Maybe we could possibly do what is the fireworks? Should we see them from below or from across the way? That's another movie that I should just.
Of course, I haven't seen hardly anything, so.
But anyway, so wrapping up Your Name, Ben, what would you rate the movie?
6.5 to 7, probably.
Okay, so like just average for you.
But average for me is definitely like a little bit better than average. I tend to be like kind of more.
So 5 is like average.
Yeah,
5 is average.
Yeah. So
what would be just like any movie, show, whatever? What would be like a 9, if there is a 9 for you?
For a 9, it would have to be. I don't know if there's anything in particular that rates that high.
Favorite movie?
I don't really do favorites in general.
Actually, no. I've listened to the podcast. You don't.
But
you guys should check that out. He definitely doesn't do favorites.
If it's like, basically, if it's anywhere like a 7 or 8, it's something that I would recommend. Be like, oh, this is really good. But 9 and 10 is like.
What's My Hero Academia for you? Because I know you like even recommend that to a few people.
That would probably be like an 8, 8.5, maybe a 9 because of how much I enjoy it. But depending on how it ends up, or how it transitions, further on, it could go down a little bit.
Okay.
But so far, yeah, I would say at least an 8.
Gotcha. How was Psycho-Pass then?
Psycho-Pass is probably close to an 8 also.
Okay.
I'd put Attack on Titan probably around the 7 mark or so.
And that mermaid one?
Valkyrie Drive.
That was just that was purely because I knew it was bad. That's probably a 4 or 5. Like it's not.
He watched it for the boobs.
Yeah, that's about it.
Anyway,
but yeah.
Jason, what would you rate it?
This movie I would rate as a 7. Good elements. I was a little thrown off a bit by I'm guessing when they were overlooking the town. Mm-hmm. Even though they were connected by that time, it was the supernatural element that actually tied them together at that point where they both can view each other, which doesn't seem possible in the physical realm. threw me off.
That was the point, though.
And I get that.
Okay, because like the reason they were able to was because they had to give up something that they cared about, which was their memories of each other.
Yeah.
And like that's why the second they got out of that spiritual realm, they couldn't remember the name of the other person.
However, everything that transpired prior was different, or everything that transpired after that then changed.
Right, because like they had like that etched in their head.
Yeah.
That like, oh, I feel something, I know something, but they don't know exactly what.
Right.
And that's why it slowly faded away as they got older, as like when they met
when Taki met or overheard the conversation inside the cafe.
And even like the grandma, Mitsura's grandma, she even said like, "Oh, you're not Mitsura," and she was like, "Yeah, I had the same experience." And
that was a little bit freaky.
And the grandma was like, "Yeah," because like the whole point of the thing, like the shrine maidens, which is what Mitsura was, their whole job is to basically warn the town of this thing. And the grandma experienced it, but her experience wasn't as strong as Mitsura's.
So, well...
And that's why, for the grandma, she doesn't remember at all. She barely remembered it. She just knows, I went through the same experience.
Something weird
so the question,
that she's heard of.
So, in the English dub, what did they really talk about for the mom?
I don't really remember the mom exactly.
Because remember, the father said that, oh, you shrine maidens all kind of go through the same thing all over again. Mm-hmm. It was hinted at it. I wasn't sure if the dub kind of.
I honestly don't remember much with the mom. I need to rewatch it.
So it was for most people who will end up watching this movie. I'm not sure if it's a throwaway line. I'm not sure if they cut out certain portions of it, but there's a portion. There's a character. It's actually, what's her name again? Mitsuru. Her mother, it's not really a spoiler because it doesn't really add or take away anything from the movie. She passes away, but her lineage also has an effect to everything that's going on.
That spiritual effect.
Yeah. And it's not really... I didn't catch it the first time. Maybe I can watch it again and see something else, but there's something else that I'm probably either overlooking there or was edited due to time constraints or whatnot, or it just didn't lead anything else into the movie. Like, maybe. Literally, you can pull it out and it did nothing for it. But yeah, that's Your Name. Let's
my rating.
Oh yeah, forgot your rating. My bad.
I'll just be sure. I would say probably 8.5 for me.
Oh wow,
and
that's pretty high. Yeah.
I definitely need to watch it again because like, watching it the first time, and then also like I always like watch videos and people analyzing it.
Mm-hmm. You like to rewatch things after explanations to look for those things.
And I like to get like a deeper meaning on it and stuff. Yeah. So I definitely want to rewatch it, and it might go lower, it might go higher, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But how I mentioned before we go to A Silent Voice, Your Name is number 2 in top anime on my anime list. Which
your personal
everyone that uses this and like they rate animes, and most people use this as a kind of anime standard in the West. Mm-hmm. Like Fullmetal Alchemist first, and Your Name second.
So leading into that, because I know we're about to just talk about
A Silent Voice 11.
I feel bad because I believe it's only because
Your Name overshadowed it.
It came out first.
Right. Your Name came out in September. Your Name came out in August. A Silent Voice came out a month later in September.
There's a production difference too.
True.
Because remember how I was talking about the visuals?
Your Name was beautiful. Your Name's visuals and the soundtrack amazing. I've been listening to the soundtrack for the past week.
You have really liked the soundtrack, but the sound effects too, though, of Your Name
just
were really good.
Also,
at that point, because like you and I have talked about that in the past, like sound isn't as impactful for you, and visuals aren't as far unless until it like goes with the story or whatever.
Oh, I've heard this in a previous podcast.
Right.
But good transition actually, because in A Silent Voice, the soundtrack, I actually looking up for different things to use, the soundtrack is all piano, and except for like the one live action song at the very beginning, not live action, the one actual song with lyrics at the beginning, and it's piano because the plot of Silent Voice is basically a character named Sho, and he bullies a girl also with the same nickname Sho, but she goes by something else. I should probably look that up. But he bullies her in elementary school, making her change schools, and she is deaf. Right. And because of how badly he bullied her, it like left an impact on her life and his life. And the movie opens up with him planning to commit suicide, and kind of closing all these loose ends. And one of those loose ends is getting closure with this girl that he bullied. Good job. So he was bullied. It was him coming to getting closure from this girl that he bullied before he went to commit suicide, and that's the very bare bones basic plot of the movie. But I don't even know where I was going with this. Oh, the soundtrack. The soundtrack was mainly pianos, and during the beginning of the movie, it had a lot of piano sounds, but it kind of sounded distorted, kind of like if you were also deaf, which I thought was really interesting when I was listening to the soundtrack, trying to find songs.
Makes sense that basically if you were deaf, because you still have a little bit of hearing, just like if you're legally blind, you can still kind of see some stuff, and in some cases you can even drive technically, but you would have sort of like a person like that, higher pitch sort of ringing, kind of flowing-ish, like somewhat sound. It wouldn't just be complete silence.
I guess overall thoughts of A Silent Voice, and I don't. Should we compare the two like immediately, or just kind of just talk about what we thought?
No,
about
I think we should just talk about them separately.
Okay.
Like they were kind of similar theme, but I feel like they weren't really overlapping.
Okay, so starting with.
You don't want me to start.
All right, I'll start with. It'll be me and Jason, then we'll hear Ben's very different. Actually, Jason, just go.
Well, because I know you guys have actually seen it more recent than I have, so I kind of have to re-jog my memory regarding it.
So do I.
You want me to go first then?
If you could.
Okay, so I'll go. Then we'll have Ben's very opposite opinion, mainly about the ending. But so when I watched it by myself the very first time. I remember Ben actually came in at the very end, like last 2 minutes of the movie. But and I watched it a second time with someone, and then a third time with Ben. And it didn't hit home for me. Like I personally don't know anyone who has attempted suicide. If I do, like they haven't told me, I don't know about it. But basically, I would say the whole movie is about forgiveness for other people and yourself, and kind of just overcoming that in a way, because the character it didn't hit home for me because I haven't experienced that myself, but I thought it was a very relatable thing. Obviously, it's like a pretty sensitive topic for some people, and the way it went about it, with the main character being this huge bully to the point where he was ripping out Sho's, God, I can't remember her name, Sho's hearing aids at the beginning of the movie, calling her names, throwing dirt at her, pushing her in pools. Like, it was so just rude. Like, it's really shocking that they were able to get some audience members to connect to such a rude and bad character from the beginning. Obviously, like, it's a 7-year difference from the beginning when he bullied her to the main movie when he's in high school. And Nishimiya Shoko, so we'll call her Shoko. And Shoya is the boy's name. So say Sho and Shoka. But I thought it was just really relatable, and the fact that in the movie she had a notebook to talk to people who didn't know sign language, and people wrote a lot of mean things in this notebook, and she eventually lost it, and then Sho picks it up, and his whole thing about closure at the beginning of the movie, he wants to return it to her to get that closure. And when he returns it to her, she really wants to keep it. She starts to read through it again, and he was like, "You shouldn't read through that." But for whatever reason, why did he give it to her if he didn't want her to do that? But for him, that's just what he needed to do. And then, like, the symbolism, my second time going through it, try not to spoil this big thing. He tries to grab the notebook from her, and they drop it into the river, and then she jumps for it, and then he tries to, you're gonna get wet, like, don't do that, like, we'll get it another time, or just let it go, and he, like, barely misses her hand. And then some of the stuff later on, the parallels to that scene and other scenes and other things in the movie, I thought was just really done really well. And then the other characters, the side characters, the really mean bully girl who just never got redemption in my eyes, but apparently in the manga she does. She does a lot more, but still, I thought she was terrible. His best friend, who looked like Steven Universe, like, and I thought it was really interesting because in the movie, all the extra characters have X's over their heads because the main character deals with this anxiety, and he can't look people in the eyes, so he constantly looks down on them, and there's these red X's because he just shuts himself away from everyone. And when he makes his first friend, you see the red X or the blue X slowly peel away from their face once he knows their name and starts opening up to them. So I thought that was a really nice visual representation of the inner working of anxiety. And especially at the end of the movie, I thought that was really beautifully done. But the movie itself, I would say, would it be like a slice of life? Just like a slice of his life, just it wasn't really happy-go-lucky. It was more so, I don't even know how to explain it.
It was, it's not slice of life because it's life.
Like it's life.
It's life.
It was a drama.
Your retelling and recanting of a lot of things about this movie brought up a lot of things that I remember about this, which
perfect.
So yes, the opening scene with him looking to find his own closure, for being the person that he was when he was in elementary school, and he wanted at that point, when you open up to the movie, he wanted to be a better person.
Well, the opening of the movie, he wanted to die.
Well, he wanted to be, because again, he also worked so many jobs to give money to his mom.
Right, and he sold his like bed and everything
before he tried to take his own life.
Right, so
so in my eyes, he was trying to be a better person, but he already condemned himself so badly that, all right, I'm going to do everything I can do from here to this point, because he had an end date. He had an end date that he wrote onto his calendar, saying the fact that this is the day that I won't be here anymore. But until that time frame, let me do everything I possibly can to be a good person.
See, my opinion is the opposite of that.
And from that, because again, he was a horrible elementary school kid.
Mm-hmm. And his friends turned against him and started bullying him. That's actually what started his downward spiral.
That was the catalyst. That's actually what caused his redemption arc to start. But by the time he started to realize what was going on, he was like, I was a really bad person. I was a really horrible person. No one really wants to, and no one wanted to be around him. And he's then internalized all those things, and he projected them upon himself, because then he had no one to bully any longer, so he couldn't throw those feelings onto someone else. So all he had the opportunity to do was internalize it. And when you internalize it and you become pretty much susceptible to your own devices, because literally it's your mind working against you. And at that point, he was like, all right, I did this in the past. I've done this. Everyone thinks I'm a bad person. Teacher thinks I'm a bad person. My friends, my so-called friends think I'm a bad person. Maybe I am a bad person.
And he even, like, in the classroom, a guy was trying to get his attention. He just ignored him. He didn't think he deserved anyone's attention.
Yeah.
And he would even people watch and, like, make conversations like, oh, they're probably talking bad about me.
And because of that, that's when he started. And I've encountered friends who contemplated suicide. It's even been a thought that's actually crossed my mind at one point in time. So it is relatable. And that's when you were starting to bring up all those things. I was like, this is what I remember about this movie. This is how it resonated for me. Because the fact that, and I've actually been the product of bullying. So I understand that other aspect of it where basically someone just constantly picks on you for what appears to be no reason, just because the fact that you're just a helpless victim. So either you internalize it, you lash out, or the fact that you just can't handle it anymore. Those are literally your three options. There are other options, but those are your biggest outliers. So for him to go through that arc and understand that I was this bad person, no one actually believes who I can possibly be. My mother thinks I'm still a good person. Let me show her that I'm still a decent individual, but let me not give her this burden any longer. That's half of Act 1. That's literally your introduction before you have a chance to see him try to interact with the girl who he bullied and started this entire process. What I find to be the most interesting and most redeeming quality of this character is prior to him searching her out, he learned sign language.
Right.
He learned the ability to communicate to her, and
it does show growth and development and like a change of heart, which I think is what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and with that, it allowed this character to everyone to now start to feel bad for him, because when you first get introduced to this character, you think he's a dick, like. You kind of like, all right, well, yeah, you were this horrible person when you start to see everything that you did. The fact you ripped the hearing aid from out the girl and caused her ear to bleed.
And gave her a scar that they mentioned a few times.
Yeah. So, to go through all those things and then basically realize the fact that, yeah, I did do this bad thing. I'm sorry. I'm truly, truly sorry. And I'm going to isolate myself purposely. Not allow myself to, because I don't need, at this point, I don't deserve friendship. And that's where that character was at that point. I don't deserve your friendship because I'm this bad of a person. And it was, him understanding that part of his arc, or at least that part of his character, and then the individuals that were then put into his life to help transition him out of that particular downward spiral. Because it wasn't until more than halfway through the movie that he started to kind of believe in himself, that he can still do other things, because he didn't really open up to the exes. Didn't leave anyone's face for quite some time.
And even with the people that did, he didn't believe he deserved it, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
He even like says, like, is this what this feels like friendship, like I can have this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that he actually says that in the movie, and
something close to that. Yeah.
Now, what I did find quite interesting is during that time frame where he was starting to develop certain relationships with other individuals and starting to call other people friends. There was that one individual, the one female who, in your eyes, who was not redeemable in any way, shape, or form. Her ex dropped, but reappeared.
Right, and because I think that happened because she said we're not so different. And the second he thought of that comparison, he was like,
I'm really not. I'm still the same vindictive person. I did these things before in the past. I still can have these thoughts. I still can do this. I can still be that nasty individual.
And because of her, that's caused a bridge scene for him to push a lot of people away too.
Yeah, it's what caused I'm guessing it's a transition of the emotional feeling or the emotional connection between the main two characters, because that was his bridge scene where basically he was like, all right, I'm at my ultimate low without actually going forward with what I was trying to do in Act 1, and it was the beginning of
a lonely life.
No, it was beginning up for the other character. That was her transition. It was her change. Because her caveat point was and again, I'm not sure if you guys watched the dubbed or the sub version.
I watched both.
So if you heard the dub version, it sounds somewhat comedic, but you actually hear exactly what she was trying to say, and it felt you felt the pain because she was really trying to convey this heartfelt emotion, and she was trying to say it.
She wanted to try to be
normal,
quote normal,
without using sign language. He understood sign language. She could have signed it, but she said, "I just want to say this with my own voice."
But that was also because she just got the news that she completely lost hearing in one of her ears too. Mm-hmm. So I think that caused her to be like, and she changed her hairstyle. She's like, I want to
be different. I want to be normal, and that caused that particular change. So the position that your main character, your initial main character had, was then now transposed into this other character, and at that point, it started to switch. So at one point, they became almost exactly equal. And then he started to feel better, a little bit better about himself, and wanted to do better, and think that basically he can actually have friendship. He can have relationships. And it was at that point she started to distance herself away from everyone, and she turned into him.
And then after what happens in the third act, that we're not going to say, they were kind of at the same point together. Mm-hmm. And then the movie kind of ends with them kind of knowing where they both stand and want to kind of
move forward from there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it resonated extremely well with me, and I appreciate your reiterating of what happened with the movie, because it allowed all those feelings, all those thoughts that I had while watching this movie flood back into me, where it came from. Yes, the initial, I want to end my life because of the fact that I'm a horrible person, versus to how the movie ended and how that all changed. So
Ben,
without spoiling,
I feel like we said a bunch of things that just kind of triggered you.
So first off, I liked it a lot.
Okay.
Like it.
So no matter what you say, you still liked it.
I liked it. I would recommend it. Overall, it hits really close to home because my dad and my brother both wear hearing aids and stuff, and like our house was just that house. Like the TV was always super loud and everything. However, I didn't like how it ended. And the main character, I think, throughout what you were saying, Jason, a lot of it, he seemed super selfish and about him and what he wanted and what he needed, instead of because she needs this, because she needs to feel this way, because she wants to feel normal. He didn't think he deserved it because he did this or he did that, and he wanted to commit suicide, and all of this was based, I think, out of selfish reasons. I'm not saying that it's not valid and that that's not how your brain doesn't work, because it will fight against you, and I'm not saying it's not a negative line of thinking, because it is. But I think the motivation behind it was selfish. Which I think in general, in times, it can be a selfish act.
Actually, most individuals, I agree wholeheartedly.
I agree that suicide is a selfish act.
The fact that you could the most when you deal with someone who actually has committed suicide, and actually when I worked in property management, I had a neighbor who lived across the hall from me who actually committed suicide. Mm-hmm. It's the individuals who are left are always left with questions. What if I would have talked to you just a little bit more? What if I actually just said, "Hey, how's it going? You want to go out for a meal or something? You want to just interact?" And it is a selfish act, because the fact that, but it's also, we're also not in their position, because they feel as though that they're in a particular downward spiral that they can't get out of. They might have a support system which actually helps and aids with that. Mm-hmm. The individual who lived across the hall did have that support system. However, they did not reach out to their support system for about a week. And at the end of said week, because we didn't even know, all they said was, "We haven't heard from our son for about 4 days. We're concerned. Mm-hmm. Can we go over and see what's going on?" Mm-hmm. "Well, you guys are listed as emergency contact. I'll go over with you." Walked on over, and there we go.
Yeah.
So it is a selfish act, and there are people that actually will reach out and will be able to help. And it deals with a lot of different things.
Right.
Anxiety,
It's definitely not simple and just a one thing to kind of explain or whatever.
But I also like agree like with it being selfish, and that the character show was being selfish at the beginning of the movie, and even during the middle when he's trying to get this closure because he wanted the closure for himself.
Right.
But
It wasn't like he wanted to make amends so that she was at peace.
But when,
at least that's not the way it was depicted.
When the 1/3 of the movie I don't know, the relative of Shoko.
little girl.
Okay.
I thought okay.
No, that was more explanation.
The relative of Shoko even mentions you're just being selfish to him, and he says, I think he even says, yes, I was, but right now I just want Sho to be happy.
Right, you're right. There was a realization for his thought process, which I think, if I'm remembering right, was about the point of the redemption arc.
Because it happened when they were in the rain together.
Because for him to be able to become a better person, according to the film, he would have needed to have had that realization before that arc could have started.
And then even he says, like, once again, I want Sho to be happy after they watch that video on the Ferris wheel too. So like, but yeah, go on.
So yeah, I just think like he seems kind of selfish throughout most of the film, and then he has that realization, and then he does become better. And then by the end of it, that last ending scene when he has his big realization,
When he takes his hands off his ears finally.
right? Yeah. So when they go like up the steps to the crowd or whatever, I didn't like it. It's accurate to a degree and a good visual representation to explain it to in sort of layman's terms type of thing, but I don't think it was accurate. Like if he was actually so. It's almost like a light bulb moment when a character goes, aha, I figured out how to make my invention work. That's the way that kind of happened. But for someone that actually struggles with anxiety or any sort of thing in that area of negative thought in general, it wouldn't have been this big aha moment where everything becomes clear. It would have been slow, and like he could have walked through the crowd and had a couple fall off, but a couple stay on, and then like could have given some sort of time period that had passed.
Almost like a
time lapse.
Yeah.
Right. Where more X's came off, but it was like they hit the top of the steps and then boom, all of them fell off.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think was necessarily a good way to do it, but at the same time I kind of think it was for other people to figure out what was going on.
You think if they did just some of them, it would be like, wait, what's happening kind of thing?
Right. It wouldn't have been as clear. But at the same time, I kind of wish they would have done it more slow and kind of like, oh, he reached out and kind of talked to this first person and then, two people down the line. And it kind of grew into having it where all of them then did eventually fall off, which that could have been in a 30-second or minute like clip.
Or whatever. A time lapse, yeah.
What right before that scene when he comes back to school and he opens the door to the classroom, he's like kind of ready to kind of face everyone. He looks into the classroom, everyone turns to him, and then all the X's appear. Like it was kind of like a comedic scene, but like
a little bit, but at the same time it is kind of, I mean, that's
literally
that was kind of representative of him not being quite done, or whatever. And then they get to the top of the steps. That's why I'm saying it's kind of like this weird, almost jarring juxtaposition, like because I got the sense that it was like the same day or the same, generally the same time period.
Yeah.
So it's like he went from having it and then not having it. I'm like,
within like
that's not how that works.
With like a snap of the finger.
Basically, yeah, exactly. Which was my main reason why I didn't like the way it ended. And I said it was stupid. And I picked like, not trigger words or whatever, but like I phrased it in a way that just made Avery mad because I was like, this is dumb. That's not how it works. I'm dumb. This is stupid. But that's a much more clear, I hope, explanation of my thought process.
Well, no. I would agree wholeheartedly. I believe the fact that 97% of the movie I was actually in love with. The ending did seem rather, in my opinion, rushed. The way that it all just
and at the same time, that might just be because it was a 7-volume manga turned into a 2-hour movie.
But again, we have with the cinematography that we have as of right now.
And we're used to long movies.
Yeah,
in general.
That same time frame. Again, if we're and now we're going to throw comparison to your name.
Mm-hmm, that's fine.
The opening scene where basically you see the time lapse over the two characters.
Mm-hmm. They could have done something similar.
Same 30-second time frame where the fact that you actually have him walking through a crowd and slowly, as Ben stated, slowly have the X's come off. Not everything. Aha! I got this. Because it said, oh, I'm going to just wrap this up in a nice little bow. Here you go. Cute. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was meant to be a little bit comedic with that scene for sure.
And even like throughout the whole movie, I especially looked at the third time I watched it, the camera constantly goes from his point of view because you don't really know why the X's are there until later.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize it's because he can't look at people in the eyes. And if you rewatch it, you see that the camera often takes his point of view. Like even like in one of these scenes, he's looking at the feet, and he doesn't look up, and they make it very clear that he can't. And then later on,
which I kind of felt like the X's and stuff were a bit on the nose, but so it seemed a little more like a TV show with the X's being so obvious on people's faces and such a literal like representation of them.
But yeah, like the camera of the whole thing, I thought was really nice. After reviewing it another time,
was this after watching one of the reviews as well? The fact that they kind of point. So we are actually watching a clip right now, and it actually does show that most of the times when he is looking at an individual, he is looking downward and then slowly panning upward. So he only can really look at their feet, can't look them in the eye, and that is actually common with most individuals with anxiety, or just have an issue with
somewhat introverted people, anyways.
Right.
We're all IT. We should be that way, but we're not.
And
true.
After I talked to Ben about this, I asked someone else about what they thought. The question I said at the end of your silent voice with the X's coming off, what did it mean to you? And this is what they said. It meant that he was finally opening himself up to the world. He'd been closed off for so long, but by being in her life again and saving her, he kept his promise to himself, to a higher power, even to look at people, to give them a chance to not judge them the way he did her when they were children, because you don't know people's story, but if you give them a chance, just look them in the eyes, hear their side, it can open a whole new world you never knew existed.
Which was stupid to me. That's when I was like, this is dumb. That's
super optimistic, but the fact that it sadly it just doesn't for it to be such an anime that hits so close to home with so many different people because again we all took away different aspects of this movie. If you hear our aspects of it by this podcast, we all took away something different, but for it to all be closed up in this great little bow all at the end, it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way in the real world. However, it did touch on a lot of different aspects that all of us have actually seen throughout the course of our lifetime. So, what would everyone rate this movie?
Well, real quick, the way it ended, because it was so neat, I wanted it to be a little bit messier because it was so close. Like you said, it's a lot of people can
relate,
apply it or relate in different ways, even if it's minor. But since it's so representative, I feel like it should have been a bit more messy of an ending, because that would have been a little more like, oh yeah, like just a tad bit more relatable for you right at the end, which would have hooked you into really liking it more.
Did you just realize the fact that something else just happened in the movie?
Just two things I want to say before I forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
You never see his sister's face, but you see the husband. You see the sister from like the knees down at one point, but that's it. So that's one thing I noticed.
I think it's because he walked in on her in the shower one time.
Another thing is like the movie actually begins after the suicide attempt of him taking his hands and covering his ears, and it ends with him taking them off.
Right.
So there's that
So
visual
it comes full
representation.
circle there.
And
yeah.
also, at the very, very end, after all this scene with the light going closer, the movie also began with that. And it finally clears up, and you see two people, which you are assuming is Sho and Shoko, kind of facing everything together, like we mentioned. So I thought that was also really neat. And the last thing I thought about, because I don't want to get out, I need to get it out of my head, is the soundtrack that I mentioned at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The ending track, when he takes his hands off his ears, it finally...
It's like the volume comes up.
The
and
volume
everything,
comes
and it's
up.
not
It's
so
clear.
like,
You can finally hear all the
Yeah.
piano and the everything.
Right.
So I thought that was...
that was
really,
a good
really well done.
representation. Yeah, or done well.
Yeah.
So-
Anyway, I would give the movie probably a 9. Like I said, I liked it more than Your Name because it was more relatable and everything. And possibly because I've seen it more, too. I might need to watch Your Name a few more times, who knows. But that's my overall rating and thoughts about it.
I don't think we got a number out of you, Ben.
I'd say an 8. I liked the visuals more in the other one, and I thought it was prettier, but I liked the story of this one a little bit more because it was more realistic, a bit more kind of gritty on the more dark side of things, which I tend to like that story type more so, but I've really enjoyed the visuals and everything in the other ones. I'd probably say, depending on the day and who I'm talking to, they could flip-flop as to which I would recommend.
Did our conversation here bring it higher or lower on your rating?
No, not necessarily. I think they're both really solid. I honestly, I could put both of them at an 8, but because I'm particular and that would annoy me that they're both exactly the same because one has to be better than the other, but they can't be perfect. I'd say one's like 7, 7.5, one's 8, but they could flip-flop, like I said, depending on the day or my mood in which I'm talking about them to whoever.
Okay.
So they're realistically probably the same.
This was actually a movie that I recommended to both Ben and Avery.
That's
so
Yep.
I did have a chance to watch this. I saw my one of my sister-in-laws. Actually, she does American Sign Language, and I saw this on a Facebook post. I was like, "Oh, this seems like an interesting anime," and I always wanted to find a full version or full copy of it. So that's how I was intrigued and interested because I saw the trailer for it, and from the trailer, I was not disappointed at all.
From what was shown in the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. This gets a 10. This
Wow.
like
You think?
I 9 point.
Maybe because it hit so hard with you?
It resonates extremely well with me. Like 9.98. The only issue that I have is the fact that yes, it doesn't. Most things do not wrap up as easily as this one did. And yes, it could have that one could have been done slightly different, but will actually take away a perfect rating from just for what could be possibly redone in a slightly different way within 30 seconds.
I mean, let me say
But that's a little bit of personal opinion as
Yeah.
well.
Some people
Or
say
subjectiveness.
no movie or show or anything could be perfect.
This guy.
So again, with this movie, it resonated so well with me regarding a lot of things that I've actually dealt with in my past, in my childhood, and my adult life. And it felt so relatable, which is the reason why I fought so hard for you guys to watch it. And I did fight. I was like, hey, you should watch this movie. It was like,
I'm not finishing season 3.
I did
until you
not
watch it.
see. I didn't see the fight or anything because to me it's like, oh, you guys should watch this, and I'm like, okay,
so
I'll watch it.
There was oh, you should watch Silent Voice. All right, you got to watch season 3 of Hayaku. And before that, I was like, no, dude, watch Silent. All right, I'll watch it. Did you watch Silent Voice? No. Did you get the link I sent you? Yeah. Did you watch it? No.
Before Silent Voice, I was watch Initial D.
It was.
True.
It was. And mind you,
And that was for both of you guys.
and we have not steered you wrong in anime as of yet.
You haven't yet, no.
Which is surprising because I generally am bad with recommendations. You are amazing at them. That's like your extra skill or something.
So And to kind of wrap this all up, because I don't think we can really do and this might be 2 podcasts. It might be 2 into 1.
Maybe just one.
Or one long one.
We'll skip a week.
Skip a week because we did do 2 last week.
But with that being the case, how will we compare the 2? Because again, we're doing this podcast is feel good animes or life animes or however you want to put it.
I wouldn't really compare them. I mean,
I only compared them because they released within a month of each other, and they were compared at the time because they were fighting for best animated movie, and one was overshadowed. So A Silent Voice didn't get as much recognition it maybe should have if it came out a year before, a year later.
I think the difference really for that is one was more pretty, and the other one had a better story.
Yeah, I'll say one had a better story. One was really beautiful and amazing sound.
And that happens even in Western regular movies. If one has a really good, awesome special effects, but kind of a meh story, it'll do better than one that has a really good story.
Right.
You know?
Now,
we've seen that before.
Do you think the fact that the sound wasn't that great because the fact that the story is driven behind not really having...
I think it was done on purpose. Yeah, and I think that's really smart.
The soundtrack was definitely done on purpose for A Silent Voice. Like I mentioned with the piano, is kind of being teeny. But, and even I was watching something else about Your Name, and the entire soundtrack of Your Name is done by the band Radwimps. And for the English version of the movie, they do English versions of the songs.
Okay.
Right. And so they're the same song. It's literally the same song. They just learned English.
Okay.
Basically.
So it's done really well. You can understand the English.
Mm-hmm.
And what I heard was that they gave the producers the song that they're going to use for certain scenes. Let's say like the beginning scene of the opening or nearing the end where they had like the scene where they met or whatever, and they gave them the music they're going to use. And before when they were doing the storyboards, they tried to match the storyboards with the sound. And I think that's another reason why it works so well with Your Name.
So they
really thought about it to add that extra layer.
So they did like a Disney approach to because again Disney will bring in orchestras and everything else.
Right.
Look at the storyboard, look at the rough sketch animation, and actually come up with or compose the music based upon that information. So I can see that actually.
Yeah, because it invokes that extra layer of like emotion and stuff that you don't notice that you have that effect, just like that. Like a real obvious example is the Jaws music when the shark is approaching, which is very on the nose and like kind of odd now. Too. But that's the same. The way that works and that feeling of existential dread kind of creeping up brings up that sort of feeling, but they do it a lot more subtly now.
And it's also kind of like there's music in movies to make you feel a certain way.
Right.
Like everyone knows that, but it's not something like you said you notice because you're so used to it. But if you do watch not a silent movie, but if you watch a movie just with no music, there's a huge difference. If you just take the music out, the big emotional scene is completely gone. It loses its momentum. It loses everything.
Right. Well, because like bass in general in sound and music like is more of like your heart feeling type of thing. So like when there's bass, like the Jaws or something, your heart kind of starts to match that beat. Which I don't know. Maybe you've noticed with putting the boys to sleep and stuff that your breathing ends up matching them.
Oh, absolutely.
Like without you trying, because that has happened with me with my nieces and nephews and stuff too, or even like girlfriends or something like that. When you like fall asleep on the couch or something, like I at least end up matching or the dog.
So
that happens too.
I'm trying to recall what the sound effect was, or what the mood or the sounding or soundboard was used during the scene in Silent Voice, during the firecracker scene, and then thereafter.
I think there was like a very high pitched noise, but it was mainly drowned out by the sound of the fireworks. And the second the laundry flew in the way, it went silent.
Okay.
And then it flew out of the way again, and then the sound came back.
Okay. It's not something that I picked up on. Again, I haven't watched this movie in more than a month.
Oh no.
like it's I'll watch a movie and again, it as I stated before in this podcast, it resonated well with me due to a lot of the things that I've dealt with personally and all the things that it brought up emotionally. Sometimes I don't feel as though I am strong enough to go back through said emotional roller coaster again and then again. So
Right.
I will say that this movie caught me several different times. I'm not even gonna lie.
I think it was only twice for me, and it was real close. Like it wasn't as bad as Erased because Erased basically was there, and this was a little bit because it's very difficult to push me over that edge. But this was right behind Erased. I think
Erased was like emotional for you, but also got you like angry for everything too.
I was mad at him too with the bullying and the beginning part of that there.
So which part of the Erased that actually caught you?
The whole beginning part with her like parents and her being abused and like all of that.
Oh god, yes.
First third, I would probably say.
Oh man, the punch that she
because that's why we could only watch one episode before we came to work because it literally made me angry for the rest of the day.
What I mentioned earlier that this is like a 7-volume manga turned into a 2-hour movie. The first 48 pages of the manga is completely him in elementary school growing up and bullying her. So like in the manga, you sympathize more with him and kind of realize why he's doing it because they focus a lot on how he can't be alone, and why he's so bored and why he's bullying her because he's bored. He can't understand her, and he's doing this because he doesn't get why she's just smiling and saying I'm sorry. So the manga definitely helps you get his point of view better than the movie.
Because was the manga written by someone different than who directed it?
Yeah, it is.
That's the difference.
That and because
you got
the whole movie, the whole elementary school part, I think it was only 7 minutes, and the whole bullying stuff when he started getting bullied was only like a 30-minute montage.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
because we see that difference even in our movies from book to movie, because the movie is going to inevitably reach more people than the book will, so they have to make it more entertaining. So we do see a difference even in American film as well as a difference between it.
Like you have to highlight the most detrimental, most impactful portions of it. Him ripping.
You have to sell it more.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas the book can expand upon it more because you're reading and you're already like that type of person that you're going to be generally looking for that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would just see the movie.
And most people will say the movie or the manga is always better than, the book or the manga is always better than the movie. And sometimes that's not always the case, but most of the times
I generally say the movie's better because I'm not a reader, so.
Well, I don't read either.
Me.
Reading makes me fall asleep, so I'm more
Except
audio.
Except for manga.
Manga makes me fall asleep. I wish it could do that. I'm just like, this is dumb. I can't focus on it enough to even get sleepy.
Yeah, but I've been listening to audiobooks, but reading manga I can do, but
yeah,
definitely just it's the source material is based off of this. So obviously, if the movie's good, the book's good for whatever reason, unless it's a very
an abomination.
Unless it has a great concept but horrible
execution.
Yeah. But
so what was your last thought there?
It was. I don't want to call it a feel-good movie because after you watch this, you don't feel that great.
I would say I was pretty.
Voice?
I was pretty happy at the end of it.
But you get pulled through so many different emotions through this thing.
I didn't really feel empty or angry or a negative emotion, but I didn't have like a Disney
I could see
good
for miles of blue. It's never been so clear.
So this is going to sound weird. So you bring up Disney. So everyone remembers Coco.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a Coco vibe throughout this entire movie. Because mind you, Coco, it's a happy-go-lucky song, but it's all about death. I'm not saying that this entire anime is about death. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the fact that it deals with the despair, the doubt, the anxiety. It brings through anyone who has gone through that. It brings it to the forefront. It shows the fact that there is that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
I feel like compared to Coco, that was a
I
little
feel
weird
like it's
because
opposite of Coco.
Yeah,
because this is darker, and Coco was more about
celebrating.
Because
the
that's
death,
what the whole Day of the Dead is celebrating the life that they had, which I think funerals and stuff should be in general.
So I have a weird take on Coco.
But you do. You and I tend to be opposites.
It's just like, oh wait, this is a movie about death. Okay, bye.
But yeah, like,
I understand it's a celebration of like. I saw Coco. I like Coco. I probably won't watch Coco again because
really, I've seen it twice.
I've seen it 3 or 4 times.
See, Coco. Well, actually, Coco and the element around it triggers certain anxieties that I personally have.
Okay.
So those are certain things that I don't. If I know it, I won't put myself through it.
Right.
So
that's smart.
And that's kind of the whole thought process behind it. If Coco was a movie about, and again, I'll throw out the word celebration of the death. So it's a movie about the death. So yeah,
that's fair. I mean,
I can see where you can relate it, but yeah, it's like,
but yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense then.
So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I did enjoy Your Name. I kind of felt bad about the very last line of the movie from both characters.
Why? What's your name?
Yeah, it's literally like I forgot everything about you. I get it. I get it. It's just like you went through all this and you still don't know their name.
But they know there's that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why.
I had a very deja vu-y vibe from that.
You did. Did you ask, like, haven't we seen this part before? Like, when we're watching it? Like,
I don't know if I said that, but, like, I have a lot of deja vu moments, like, just in general. Even specifically the beginning part of this podcast, I was like, I've experienced this before somewhere. Like, whether it's reincarnate life or more commonly the scientific explanation
from
is
Steins Gate?
Your brain runs through so many scenarios when you're asleep that you don't even realize it, and then when it lines up with something that happened in your sleep, then your brain's like, whoa, I already know what's going to happen.
Or if you go by the science in Steins Gate, which is also in real life logic, they talk about different world lines or parallel universes that you've lived.
That's if string theory were to be true.
Steins Gate's great, JC, you need to watch it.
Yeah, for real. That is a complex episode we could have.
I'm only smiling this way because the fact that I'm now part of a podcast. I've heard that statement before from Ben in another podcast. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm right there. Yes.
Real fast, Ben, what would you rate Steins Gate? You said like Psychopaths was like an 8 and Attack on Titan like a 7.
I'd probably put it 8, 8.5 or so. It's right up there. It's definitely up there because you were right with the science aspect, the string theory sort of part of it, and the world lines. It wasn't like, what did we just watch where it was hard to keep track of the flashbacks and flash forwards. It was very back and forth.
Attack on Titan?
No, I don't know what it was. Anyways, it's very clearly defined. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't know that that's what's happening, you can keep up with the story. Right. Otherwise, you get thrown back in time and forward in time, or dreams or whatever, and it gets confusing. You don't know what the actual like setting and time and place is of a movie.
Yeah, and I really like the real world aspect of Steins Gate. They brought like the
John Teeter,
but more Y2K.
Mm-hmm.
They brought Y2K into it, like the real world events, the IBM 5100, but they call it IBN. Did I get the backwards?
No, you were right.
But it's Jason. Watch it. Watch Steins Gate. Steins Gate 0 is almost up. I think there's 7 episodes left to air. Ben, you gotta finish that.
I don't remember starting it.
You didn't start it.
Okay, I need to start it.
So the question is, the Steins Gate Zero, is that before or after? Do I need to watch it in a particular
Watch
order?
Steins Gate first.
Okay. Because that's...
Steins Gate, you can definitely fall into a hole with.
Like I did.
For sure.
Is it as bad as Monogatari?
No.
Okay.
Because Steins Gate is based off a visual novel called Steins Gate, and there's just the anime adaptation. The visual novel has like 6 different endings, but the anime takes the good ending, and then there is, to reach that good ending, there's this, like we talked about different world lines and universes and stuff. Steins Gate Zero is one of those lines, and that's all I'll say without going to like the big spoilers. But basically, to get Steins Gate's ending, Steins Gate Zero happens.
Okay. So it's like...
So you could watch them out of order, and honestly, there is so the episode 23 of Steins Gate. There's 25.
Didn't you say there was like a weird way to watch Zero and Steins Gate?
Yeah,
where you mix the two together or something like that.
So basically, if you watch from episode 1 of Steins Gate to episode 23, they made an alternative ending to episode 23 that is a prologue to Steins Gate Zero.
Okay.
So you could watch episode 23, watch that beta. It's called the beta episode. Watch Steins Gate Zero, and then watch episode 24 and 25, and you can see it'll hurt your heartstrings because of what happens.
Jeez.
Because Steins
Gate's really good.
Steins Gate has I think a beautiful little bow ending.
Oh god.
In Zero, you see everything that this character had to go through to get to that ending.
Oh jeez.
So like that's like an alternate way to watch it, but I would say only watch that if you're rewatching the show, not for the first time.
Yeah, I would say go through Steins Gate. And then
This is your anime version of Kingdom Hearts. I got it.
I did jump into the series really.
He did hardcore
because I bought the visual novels.
Because he played the game, wants to get all the different endings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I beat the
which
game
was,
Zero.
I mean, it wasn't, but at the same time, it was because it's very. There is quite a bit of science in the show, which I didn't necessarily know was going to fall under his realm of what he was into, because there's some very specific like physics and stuff almost involved in it. Like not like you're doing like figuring out equations and whatnot, but it's not just a 4th grade explanation of physics. Like, oh, you drop the apple, it hits.
They
the
really
floor.
do go
They
into
do explain
in-depth
it.
stuff.
So it got a little bit more nerdy than I would have expected him to really be into.
Too bad I failed physics.
It doesn't matter. Honestly,
It doesn't. Yeah.
If you understand all it, or if you can just pay attention to it, that'll make it really good to watch. But even if you just zone out a few times, like it's not anything like drastic. You need to pay attention.
Right. It's not like it. It just makes it that much better if you do kind of get some of the time travel thoughts, or the way that science treats time travel now.
And also, like me watching Steins Gate and then starting Steins Gate Zero, then I got Ben to watch Steins Gate. Rewatching just the first episode is so like
You were telling me about that.
mind blowing. Like, oh my god, that's what that was. Oh my god, this is what happened. Like, Jason, you gotta watch it.
It's on my to-do list.
After Haikyuu, did you finish that?
I only have 3 more episodes to finish.
You can finish that tomorrow.
Finish it tonight.
I have to drive to Virginia tomorrow.
So finish it tonight.
I have to. What? I have to drive to.
It's only 3 hours. What are you gonna do for 3
real.
hours? Depending on where you're going. I don't know where you're going. If you're going the bottom side of Virginia, so you're gonna drive the whole way across the state. So that's 3 hours in Virginia. So you got like a 6-hour drive.
So you can watch.
I can watch it tomorrow night because I won't be with. Yeah.
Okay.
Or I can start Steins Gate.
Finish Haikyuu first.
And then you could watch Steins Gate. You could finish Haikyuu by the time you hit Virginia, and then as you drive across Virginia,
Wait, hold on. I have to listen to our podcast as well as other podcasts on my way down there. I can't
do you though?
I will tell you.
But of course,
I did watch some of Steins Gate, just like putting in my car the dub version, which the dub's amazing. Like it doesn't take any context out. But I watched some of it just like listening to it while driving some days. And then when they got like really serious and into it, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because like episode 12 is when things hit the fan.
The girl character though, man,
Doo-doo.
she is adorable.
Oh god.
Like I fall into the best girl like thing for sure. Like Erased was that way. Steins Gate.
Every show we watch, if there's like a cute character,
a cute young like
a lolly,
like yeah, literally, but not
in
in
a creepy way.
right. It's purely like
I want to
just
protect her.
this parental like I want her to be a pet and like
Oh,
yeah.
like
Every time.
Even when I'm just like watching an anime, he has nothing to know. He doesn't know anything about. He'll just like walk in, see a character, he's like, oh, she's cute, or like, oh, that's cool, or something. Like he'll just mention something, make a comment.
But yeah, it's not creepy at all. It's just
I need to protect them.
right.
Especially
like
with
you're
my
so
issue.
innocent that you just have to stay this way forever because you're just perfect that way.
So wait, is that how you felt about the little kids from Thundercats?
I didn't watch Thundercats. That was the '80s, man.
No, the new
They have
one.
a new one.
Oh,
It's on now.
Well, not the new one.
Not the new one?
No, not the new.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, because there's Thundercats Roar coming out.
I kind of watched some reruns in the '90s when I was a kid, but I don't
We
really.
gotta end this.
Well, yeah, I thought we were done for a while.
Okay, so everyone who's listening, this has been a longer episode than we expected. But yeah, thanks for everyone who was listening to this episode, even though it was a longer one. I know some people, Rail specifically, was asking for a longer one, so there you go. Watch these movies, Rail, and everyone who's listening, and hopefully we got you interested in watching anime movie if you have not before or have been on the fence on it. But yeah.
Yep. Just as a reminder, the movies that we were discussing are Your Name as well as Silent Voice. So both animes that dropped
2016,
and both I would say critically acclaimed.
definitely.
Very good movies. Highly recommended. Dub, sub, doesn't matter. Just find a way to view it. It's actually they both get my recommendation.
They are both on random websites you can find online that we will not name. You can probably rent them also on Amazon and wherever else.
Silent Voice is actually the hardest to find.
Which one were we? One of the two, I don't know if both, was on the Google Play Movies thing.
Gotcha. Yeah,
We were
I found
looking the other
one.
day.
I watched the
I think
Steins
it
Gate
was
movie and I
Your
had to
Name?
rent that on
I think, but it was
Amazon.
only dub or subbed.
Subbed.
The dub is harder to find.
If you choose to watch any anime movie and you're renting it, make sure you rent the correct version. I almost made the mistake of renting the raw Japanese version of a movie with no subtitles.
Oh,
so
it's raw.
Just something to fix out. But I watched some of it just like listening to it while driving some days. And then when they got like really serious and into it, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because like episode 12 is when things hit the fan.
The girl character, though, man,
Doo-doo.
she is adorable.
Oh god.
Like, I fall into the best girl like thing for sure. Like Erased was that way. Steins Gate.
Every show we watch, if there's like a cute character,
a cute young like
a lolly,
like yeah, literally, but not
in a creepy way.
right. It's purely like
I want to
just
protect her.
this parental like I want her to be a pet and like
Oh.
yeah.
Like
Every time.
Even when I'm just like watching an anime, he has nothing to know. He doesn't know anything about. He'll just like walk in, see a character, he's like, oh, she's cute, or like, oh, that's cool, or something. Like he'll just mention something, make a comment.
But yeah, it's not creepy at all. It's just
I need to protect them.
right.
Especially
like
with
you're
my
so
issue.
innocent that you just have to stay this way forever because you're just perfect that way.
So wait, is that how you felt about the little kids from Thundercats?
I didn't watch Thundercats. That was the '80s, man.
No, the new
They have
one.
a new one.
Oh,
It's on now.
Well, not the new one.
Not the new one.
No, not the new.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, because there's Thundercats Roar coming out.
I kind of watched some reruns in the '90s when I was a kid, but I don't.
We gotta end this.
Well, yeah, I thought we were done for a while.
Okay, so everyone who's listening, this has been a longer episode than we expected. But yeah, thanks for everyone who was listening to this episode, even though it was a longer one. I know some people, Rail specifically, was asking for a longer one, so there you go. Watch these movies, Rel, and everyone who's listening, and hopefully we got you interested in watching anime movie if you have not before or have been on the fence on it. But yeah,
Yep. Just as a reminder, the movies that we were discussing are Your Name as well as Silent Voice. So both animes that dropped 2000s
2016,
and both I would say critically acclaimed.
definitely.
Very good movies. Highly recommended. Dub, sub, doesn't matter. Just find a way to view it. It's actually they both get my recommendation.
They are both on random websites you can find online that we will not name. You can probably rent them also on Amazon and wherever